So, starting with Innervate. It's a decent card. It's used just to gain 2 mana crystals, this turn only. As it states, costs no mana. This can be extremely useful to summon really powerful creatures a lot sooner than you should be able to. Since the mana crystals you gain are not empty, they are in fact usable. You can summon, you know, creatures that would normally cost 4 mana on turn 2 by using Innervate, or, you know, in extreme cases you could even combo it so you use the coin plus 2 Innervates and summon a 6 mana creature on turn 1. It's an extremely powerful ability. But yeah, basically used to, for one turn, drastically accelerate the tempo of the game. And I should have defined that. Tempo is kind of the rate at which the game is being played, who has kind of the advantage in terms of mana over the other person. And Druids are really good at doing that, accelerating the tempo, to where they can play more powerful creatures a lot sooner than their opponents can, so they get kind of, that's an acceleration in tempo. They get to play things of higher power sooner than their opponents. And Innervate's a perfectly good example of that. So, that's Innervate. Moonfire. 0 mana card, deal 1 damage. It's not terrible, but on the other hand, it is definitely not to be considered good. Reason being, since you can only put 30 cards in your deck, and you're basically putting on a card that does 1 damage, there are other cards that can deal 1 damage and can do a lot more than that. So, I mean, there is a Druid deck that uses Moonfire and kind of combos it with something else, but generally speaking, Moonfire is not a great card. I would not recommend using it all that much. So, yeah, just the deal 1 damage, even if it's free, it's not great. Claw. Give your hero +2 attack this turn and +2 armor. The armor, as all armor does not go away at the end of the turn. Claw can be alright. It's basically just saying deal 2 damage, and whatever you deal that damage to will hit you back in the face. It's situationally good. It's especially good as a good answer to early game creatures that are played, as a lot of them only have around 2 health, and even if they have 3 health, you can usually combo it with your hero power, which for Druids is spend 2 mana, gain 1 attack this turn, and 1 armor. So comboed with Claw, you could gain 3 attack and 3 armor in 1 turn. But still, Claw, it's good, and it has its place in certain decks. Yeah, that's basically it. It's again, not amazing, but it's not bad. Then we have Naturalize. Destroy a minion, your opponent draws 2 cards. This, I'm inclined not to really like it. Reason being, yes, it's only 1 mana and it destroys literally any minion. That being said, while it provides an answer to strong minions, for example, like certain dragons like Ysera and Malygos, both of them are 9 manas. They cost 9 mana, they have 4 attack and 12 health, so unless you have something that just removes them from the board, they're very hard to deal with because their health is so high. Naturalize is very cheap, and it deals with cards like that with high health that are big threats very easily. That being said, I still don't like it. Reason being, your opponent draws 2 cards. This is saying, I'm going to play an answer to one of your cards, and I'm going to let you draw both an answer to whatever I play after it, and a new card to replace whatever I just got rid of. So, I mean, it's not something I like that much. That being said, it does have its uses, but it's still... The fact that it allows your opponent to draw 2 cards makes it rather useless, in my opinion. Savagery. Deal damage equal to your hero's attack to a minion. It can be okay. However, most Druid decks these days don't run off of giving their hero attack. So, I mean, the most this card is liable to do in most Druid decks, even when comboed with cards like Claw, and there's another one down here, Bite. Give your hero +4 attack this turn and 4 armor. Unless you combo it with things like that, Savagery is typically going to deal, you know, around 1 damage. So, I don't know. It feels like a card that just requires that it be comboed with something else before it's even useful. And typically, you don't want those kinds of cards in your deck. You want them to be able to be used just as standalone cards and still be good. However, you still want them to be able to become stronger too when comboed with other cards, and Savagery just isn't that way. You need to combo it. So personally, I don't really like it, and that's just my personal opinion. You guys can decide for yourselves, but yeah, it just requires too much to be able to use it to great effect. Then there's Power of the Wild. Choose one, give your minions +1/+1. This is all minions you have on the board, not just every minion in your deck gets +1/+1. That would be crazy overpowered. So it's just the minions on the board. Or summon a 3/2 Panther. This card I like because it's extremely versatile. If you have, you know, 3 or 4 minions on the board, you can give them all +1/+1, and this card basically becomes a 4/4 for 2 mana. That would be, you know, that's pretty crazy value. On the other hand, if you really need a creature early, and you have none in your hand, this card still isn't dead, because you can instead summon a 3/2 Panther, and that's not bad either, considering most 2-drops in this game are 3/2s or 2/3s. So, all in all, I really like it, mostly because of its versatility. And yeah, it's just a really nice card. Wrath, this is one of the, like, hallmark Druid cards. Costs 2 mana, choose one, deal 3 damage to a minion, or 1 damage and draw a card. Now, to clarify, this 1 damage is still only to a minion. Yeah, you can't deal the 1 damage to an opponent's face. Excuse me. You either deal 3 damage to a minion or 1 damage to a minion and draw a card. This makes Wrath extremely versatile, because you can either use it to basically take out a creature with the whole 3 damage aspect, or, assuming you want... If you just want to draw a different card, perhaps get a new answer, you can do that with Wrath, which is nice. And you can also use it kind of like a Warlock card called Mortal Coil, deal 1 damage to a minion. If it kills it, draw a card. Basically, you can use it to finish off minions too if you want to. So, yeah, again, the versatility makes it really, really useful. And as a card, I like it. I mean, because it's 2 mana and it can deal up to 3 damage as well. This means usually when you play it around turn 2 or 3, it will be able to take out any minion played by your opponent. Usually 2-drops and 3-drops don't have more than 2 health or 3 health in extreme cases. There are 3-drops that have 4 health, or even some 2-drops like that, but I think almost without exception, they don't have enough attack to be big threats. So Wrath is really good for taking out early game threats. And late game it still has use because you can use it to draw cards. So It's versatile, I like it. Mark of the Wild. It's cost 2 mana, give a minion taunt, and +2/+2. This card can be extremely useful. The reason being, you kind of look at it and it says, well, 2 mana, +2/+2. It's basically a 2 mana 2/2, right? Well, not quite. Reason being, it also gives taunt. And a lot of Druid cards will have extremely high health. That's just one of the kind of trademarks of their minions. They tend to have, you know, 4 health or more, at the very least. So this card, especially when comboed with other Druid creatures, can create extremely hard to deal with and high health minions. And they then have taunt too, so your opponent literally has to deal with them before they can start dealing damage to you, unless they want to use spells. So, I think it's a nice card. It doesn't... Yeah, actually, I just need to leave it there. It's a nice card in my opinion. We then have Wild Growth. Costs 2 mana, gain an empty mana crystal. This is kind of what I was talking about with Druids having the ability to accelerate tempo of the game. Even though this card doesn't really seem to do very much for you when you immediately play it, its effects can build as the game gets further on, because if you use it on turn 2, you're going to then gain an empty mana crystal, so you're at 3 empty mana crystals by the end of turn 2. Your next turn starts and you have 4 mana crystals, because you gain a mana crystal every turn, and all of them are refilled. That's being able to play a 4 mana creature when your opponent can only play a 3 mana creature. So you're already one up on them in terms of creatures you can play given your mana. So even though it in and of itself does not seem to do much, it allows you to kind of really take control of the game by playing much more powerful creatures and spells before your opponent can play things like that of equal power. So it's pretty nice. I'm gonna put a little